Chapter 7, 7A, Paisley. We received a letter from the tutelage about a month after Grandfather sent in the application. It detailed the challenges to come for the selection. The first challenge would be crafting a talisman, while the second challenge would be a demonstration of power, both of which I was quite anxious about. Fenton and I spoke at length about the talisman, racking our brains for possibilities. A wand or a staff would be handy, but it could also become burdensome to carry around for use. I was leaning more towards something I could wear. I was torn between a brooch or a bracelet, though how I would make one I had no idea. I decided on a brooch. I would need to research what materials would best suit a solar magus. Now that the challenges had arrived, it was feeling pretty daunting. I didn't have a clue how to craft a talisman, let alone what to use for it. If I were to fail, there might be a new magus school in town that Grandfather was in the process of starting up. It brought a smile to my face thinking about all the trouble he was going through to ensure I had a proper place to study. For now, I would ask Fenton for help with the talisman. He was, after all, gifted with craftsmanship, so long as it involved a hammer or knife. I had an idea for my brooch, but I needed to obtain the materials. I would use fire rock from the caves. It wasn't as beautiful as a gem or as strong as some metals, but it was both of fire and earth, complementing both solar elements. The caves were a little difficult to get to, and a fair bit dangerous if you didn't know what to expect. Once, Fenton and I got caught up in a heat vent in the cave and wandered around blindly for hours in the sweltering heat. It was lucky that Lyra knew where we had gone. Otherwise, we have never had found our way out in time without Father coming to rescue us. "Fenton," I called as I knocked at his door. "Would you like to go on an adventure?" He was out of his room in 5 seconds flat. "Where are we off to, Missy, and what is the adventure?" he queried. I told him of my idea and what I needed from the caves. He thought it was a marvelous idea. We stopped by the stables to pick up a few tools and a bag before heading off to the caves. Then we rounded the kitchen for a few snacks and were off. The road down to the shore was not too far off from town. We often took trips to the beach before our move to Grandfather's. It was a lovely reminder of the times we had before. The caves were just as beautiful as always, glistening with mineral deposits every which way you turned. It wasn't hard to find the fire rock we needed. One must only go deeper into the caves, following the heat as you go. We ventured into one of the larger caverns, making sure not to disturb the larger deposits of fire rock this time. One small break in the larger ones could engulf the whole cave with billowing smoke. We gathered many of the smaller pieces lying around the ground and chipped away at some of the less dangerous deposits from the cave walls. I took the liberty during this time to heartily harass Fenton about Lyra. There was no escaping the topic now, and nobody else around to get in the way. "I see you and Lyra have gotten close since coming to Grandfather's," I started. Fenton choked on some of the dust, catching him by surprise. "Don't think I haven't noticed, Fenton. I have a nose for things that are supposed to be hidden." "I'm sure I don't know what you mean, madame," Fenton said with a playful, dignified accent. He attempted to pass it off as nothing, but his sly little smile could be seen even in the dim light of our torches. "Oh, my apologies, sir. I must have been mistaken," I added. "But then you should have seen all the snacks Lyra packed for you, specifically on our last trips. Careful now, or she might just take up more cooking on your behalf." If I could see the color in Fenton's face, I'm sure there would have been a blush rising to his cheeks. We finished procuring the materials we set out for and sat down for a quick snack before heading back. They definitely weren't as good as Lyra's snacks, especially the lavender cakes she makes, with extra butter. Alira and her new herb garden were sprucing up meals left and right. She would make a great wife one day, and an even better mother. When you and Alira are married, she'll make you the finest beef buns in town, I teased Fenton, as I popped a bun in my mouth. Oi, how about you practice your powers while we're out? Fenton asked, clearly trying to change the subject. I started small, warming the buns for us, not knowing what else to practice on. How hot do you think you can get something? Say, rocks, perhaps? Fenton inquired, eyeing the fire rock we had collected. I had never tried anything like it, but I was willing to give it a try. I looked around the cave for somewhere to work. I cleared off a small rock face and dumped out all the stones. What must I do first? I asked Fenton, unsure of what exactly we were to do. Fenton scratched his head and tried to remember. I think you have to clean the minerals off, crush the pieces down to small sizes, then heat the rocks, he answered. I poured a little water over them and crushed the rocks down to pebbles. Closing my eyes, I willed the power to surge out of me and around my hands. Fire erupted at my fingertips, wrapping around my palms and wrists. I reached down and rubbed the rocks together, loosening the dirt from them. Soon the water had become steam and was burning away along with the impurities. Once the ore was clean, I willed the fire to become blazing hot. My fire changed from red to white as I imagined it getting hotter. I could only feel warmth as I melted the pebbles into a pool of molten rock. I felt so alive as I harnessed my power, shaping the earth into a new form. I thought about what I needed to make a brooch. The only image that came to mind was that of the sun. I cooled down the heat, allowing the magma to harden and take form. It was then that I learned I could shape the metal with my mind using only my fingers as guides. Without even touching the metal, I had formed a round discus. I mimicked pinching the rim to form rays of the sun, and poked 2 holes in the middle for the pin. Lastly, I stretched out a length of the metal, rolling it back and forth mentally between my palms to form the pin. It was wonderful to behold such power. We poured more of the water onto the brooch to cool it down. It sizzled and hissed as it hardened to a beautiful dark crimson. I stood back, finally satisfied with the product. It was tremendously better than anything I had anticipated from the experiment. Fenton whistled loudly. "What a beauty!" he exclaimed. "You could fetch a pretty penny for this kind of work. We should gather as much as possible of this fire rock to bring back with us." "I bet you are right," I said excitedly. "I could sell these at the inn and help out with funds for schooling." We gathered as much fire rock as would fit in our satchel and returned to the inn to show off the brooch.